I'll just jump in front of them, but I won't go faster than them. I just need to stretch out my legs, but I'm going to stick to this pace. But inevitably that just led to my going faster. And I found myself at the 12-mile aid station in third place. And the guy next to me who I was running with, he was like, "Hey, you're on course record pace for women, right?" And I was like, "Oh no." And
Hey, we're back with another Gotta Run Racing episode.
Yes, indeed.
What is happening? Who's on the podcast today?
Well, before we get to that, we have a favor to ask you guys, okay? You hear it all the time, but it honestly makes a huge difference. So please take a moment of your time to like, subscribe, and follow, review.
Leave a comment. Sure.
On your podcast apps, on YouTube channel. It really makes a difference. Yeah. So please, pause right now. Pause the podcast. Go into your app and leave us a star rating.
Or a little comment of whatever.
Yeah, and subscribe to our YouTube because it helps immensely. What everyone says is true. It's not BS. You need your help.
Yeah. Keep us going. Keep our hearts beating.
There we go.
All right. Who is on the podcast today?
Well, guys, we have another good one for you. Another podium finisher from Black Canyons.
Wow, they just keep rolling in.
They sure do. And we've got Meghan Morgan, who was third place finisher at Black Canyon this past weekend. She's originally from Massachusetts, East Coast, now lives in Colorado. And she's fairly new to the ultra scene. She started racing in 2021, according to Ultra Sign Up. So while we don't know much about her, we're excited to find out what she's all about. Mm-hmm. And we think she's been going after that Western States ticket for a while now because she completed Bandera and Canyons last year.
That's right.
Right, and we'll get into that as well. But here she is.
Well, she finally got her ticket at Black Canyon, so...
That's right.
I can't wait to hear all about it.
There she is.
Here's Meghan coming up.
Welcome, Meghan, to the podcast, and big congrats at your third place win at Black Canyon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I'm really excited to meet you both and chat with you.
Have your feet touched the ground yet? I asked this to Anthony yesterday when we chatted with him, whether it's sunk in yet.
It kind of comes and goes in waves. It's slowly starting to sink in. Like every day when I wake up and see this large golden ticket sitting on my desk, I'm like, oh my goodness, this actually happened. I'm assuming I'll be on a high for a long time.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about Black Canyon, but first, let's go back to the beginning to get to know you better. When or how did you even start running?
Oh boy, this is a long saga. So buckle up. But I've been running since I was 10 years old. I started running with my mom because she ran about 5K every day and I just wanted to spend more time with her. So I would go on little runs with my mom or with my dad around town. And then that severely escalated, little did they know, to running cross country in middle school and high school. I was a very mediocre cross country runner. I loved the sport so much, but I wasn't exceptional in any way. And throughout college, more just ran as a side, as a hobby, started doing maybe like one or so marathons a year, not really for time, just to get out there and have a good time. And then after college is when I decided I really wanted to see if I could get faster, maybe start pushing myself a little bit more. So started training more intentionally for marathons to cut down my marathon time. And then when COVID hit, I found myself with these weekends that were just wide open and I had nothing to do. So I would just run all day. And I lived in Boston at the time, and a few of my friends and I would drive up to the White Mountains in New Hampshire, and we picked all these routes out there to try out and began messing around with trails out in the White Mountains, and would do efforts anywhere between 15 miles all the way to 50 miles. And I found I really loved those days and we were just out there all day. And that kind of led to my entrance into the sport of trail running. And then eventually in September 2021, I moved out to Boulder, Colorado, and met a great group of runners out here called the Rocky Mountain Runners. And they really pushed me and encouraged me to, for better, for worse, I guess, to really dive into the world of ultras. And that's kind of how I got here.
So what was your first ultra race?
So my first organized race was the Cayuga Trails in Ithaca, New York in May of 2021. And that was a 50 miler.
Finger Lakes, right?
Yes.
Gorgeous.
I highly recommend the race. It's so beautiful. It runs through the state parks there.
Oh, wow. Very nice.
And how did that go, that being your first?
Yes, I didn't really have any expectations for it. I came in 4th place female. I was coming off of a collarbone injury. So I had broke my collarbone 2 months before. So I was just kind of starting to get back into running. So I was running a little conservatively, but I was really excited with how good I felt in the middle. So I began to pick up pace from there and, was able to still place 4th without feeling like I'd really raced necessarily. So that gave me a lot of confidence, to what I could try to do for upcoming races.
Right.
When did Western States come on your radar, or when did you hear about Western States?
Yeah. So I've known about Western States, for a couple years now, probably since I started trail running in 2020. I hadn't really thought about it as something that was attainable for me, for a long time. And then I think it was November of 2021. So after I just moved to Boulder, a friend of mine was like, hey, a couple of us are going to sign up for Bandera. I think you should do it. I was like, oh, maybe. And he was like, I think you could qualify for Western. And I was like, oh yeah, I think I could get that qualifying time to get a lottery ticket. And he was like, no, I think you can get a golden ticket. And I was like, what? And I looked it up and I was like, are you kidding me? Like top 2, that's crazy. And I actually had a poor race at Bandera. I was dealing with some health issues. So I wasn't really able to have a good day out there. But that did really light the fire. I'm definitely someone that when I see a goal, I have to get it. So got really fixated on it. That's why I also signed up for Canyons last year. Also didn't have a great day there. But I knew that it was something that I could do. And it was going to take a lot of work, and I didn't know exactly when it was going to happen. Of course, it's not just how fit you are. It's kind of the luck of the draw on the day and also how competitive that race happens to be. So there's so many different factors. So I just had no idea when it would happen, but I knew I would keep throwing my name in the hat.
Well, Bandera last year is when you took on our Canadian, Marianne Hogan.
Yes. Oh my goodness. She crushed it. I didn't see the whole race.
So take us through the eyes of someone trying to chase down Marianne. How did that whole day unfold for you?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that my mindset was chasing down Marianne because I no joke did not see her the entire time. She was so far ahead. So I was pretty much from the get-go I knew that I would probably be chasing second place. But I was actually dealing with some heart issues at the time. I had started having these heart palpitations about 2 weeks before the race, and I didn't tell anyone about it. So I was like, oh, if I just don't talk about it, it'll go away. And then it kind of started to get worse as the race was upcoming, and the race itself, it kind of felt like I was having what I would think would be a heart attack the whole time. So I really didn't feel good. I was trying to, keep running through, and I was like, oh, maybe this will just like work itself out after a couple miles. So I was still running with the chase pack of women. I was trying to talk to the women to calm myself down in case it was an anxiety thing. I met a couple of really great women through those conversations, so I'm happy I did. I was thinking about dropping at the 50K mark because I just felt so horrible. And I was honestly scared about what was going on, but my friend had flown all the way out to Texas to pace me and I didn't want to let him down and I wanted him to be able to get a good run in. So I was like, okay, I'll just keep going. So I ended up finishing, and, I think it was really helpful to have a pacer with me towards the end as I was not feeling good. I was not necessarily feeling safe. And he helped me to, work through that and to feel comfortable and then, to still push as hard as I could through the end.
And then at Canyons, which of course is the majority of the Western States course, you took on another Canadian of ours, Jasmine Lowther.
Also another runner I didn't see for the whole race. I don't know what's in that Canadian water.
Yep.
I didn't even know Jasmine was in the race.
It's the Canadian maple syrup.
Which we heard you enjoyed some maple syrup the morning of Black Canyon. So
Yes.
Now, this is the first time you're on the Western course, but of course the reverse. How did you handle the canyons?
Very poorly. I'm not going to lie to you. This was a race where I went into it knowing that I was not going to take a golden ticket if I got one, as I realized in the months between Bandera and Canyons that I don't know if I was really mature enough as a runner to take on Western. But I'd still signed up for Canyons, and I still wanted to mess around in the race, race against other incredibly fast women and just kind of see what would happen. So I think that being said, I think that was maybe more of a fault in my performance as I went in without a clear goal in mind. And I think when you're bonking mid race, not having a clear sense of purpose is really detrimental. So I started out the run. I had a really great time for the first 20 miles. I started out pretty fast because I was like, oh, I'm just going to go out and have fun, just go up by feel. But the beginning of the course is very downhill. So that led to my going out way too fast. I definitely got caught up in, this is a theme for me. I get caught up in talking to people. I love meeting people at races. So I, was definitely chasing some folks who I should not have been chasing just because I wanted to keep talking to them. So I got to the 50K mark, and as expected, my legs were totally blown out, and I hadn't even started the big climbs yet. So that was a little scary. That was the first and only time I've maybe taken more than a minute at an aid station, because I was like, wow, I just really need to stand here and breathe for a second and think about what's coming. And at that point too, I was like, okay, I'm going to slow down, try to get my legs to bounce back. But I hadn't at that point really mastered mid-race nutrition, and I was eating things like Pop-Tarts and cookies because that had worked for me when I had done long adventure runs in the past. But I realized the hard way during this race that does not work well when you're running hard, or at least for me personally. So I then, although my legs kind of bounced back towards the end of the race, I developed a lot of GI issues, and my stomach was incredibly uncomfortable, and I had to sideline myself a couple of times. So it was not necessarily from a performance standpoint the race that I wanted to have or really thought I was capable of. But I think one really great thing I took away from that race was even after I bonked later on and was having the GI issues, so mile kind of 45 and on, I linked up with a couple other fellow bonkies who were also having tough days, and we ran a bunch of miles together and had a really good time in the end. And so I met some really great friends through that race, and so I'm really happy that it worked out that way. So at least if I couldn't have a good race, I could at least meet some good folks.
Absolutely. Well, let's dig into race day. How did you feel at the start line? It was such a deep field of competitive women. Was there anyone in particular that you wanted to stick with to get yourself into a good position at the beginning?
I didn't necessarily have anyone picked out who I wanted to stick with in the beginning. Because I hadn't raced with most of these women before. I've raced with Sarah Beal a couple times, but besides Sarah, I've of course know of these women, and I've seen their accomplishments, though I didn't really know how they race. So I more just focused on my own personal feel and the advice that I got from my coach and other mentors to go out slow. That being said, I was incredibly intimidated by the field going into this race. Was very nervous, especially because this was something I put a lot of work into and I really wanted, and I'm sure every athlete experiences feeling a lot of imposter syndrome going into this race. Like, all these women are people know. No one really knows me. Am I going to be able to keep up with them? Look at all their times of past races. But then was able to kind of flip that switch in the days leading up to the race and really focus it on, like, let's get excited. This is going to be a good time. You're really fit. Regardless of if you get a ticket or not. I knew I was going to have a good day because all these women were going to push me to probably run faster than I've ever run in 100K before.
I know we saw the live feed and everyone took off like a 5K race. Did you get caught up in that crazy frenzy?
Yes. I was the frenzy. I didn't really realize it at the time. In my head, I was like, yeah, go slow, just like feel comfortable. But that's something I'm still working on at this distance, is what does slow in the beginning of a race actually feel like? Because yes, what I was running was slow, but it wasn't slow for an 100K at all, especially, on a 100K of this profile. So I was going out with the goal of kind of sticking with this group of women who I found myself around. But when we hit the first downhill section, I have pretty long legs. So I found myself almost kind of tripping on folks' heels, as we're pretty packed at that point still. So I kept asking to move in front of people. And my thought was, okay, I'll just jump in front of them, but I won't go faster than them. I just need to stretch out my legs, but I'm going to stick to this pace. But inevitably that just led to my going faster. And I found myself at the 12-mile aid station in third place. And the guy next to me who I was running with, he was like, hey, you're on course record pace for women, right? And I was like, oh no. and I just knew, and I just knew everyone watching was like, Meghan, what are you doing? Like, this is the one thing we told you not to do. So for a minute there, I was mad at myself. I was nervous. I did the exact same thing that I had done at Canyons, that I had already blown up this race. I was just picturing what my legs were going to feel like in a couple miles when the hills started. And I was dreading that. And I was like, oh no, I really think I messed up. And then I think the most important lesson I've learned from the amount of 100Ks I've done so far is just how long this race is. It's so long, and there's so much room to make mistakes and also to fix those mistakes. So I knew that the race really wasn't going to start until the 50K mark. So that gave me 20 or so miles to fix what I had just done. So I told myself I was going to pull back. I let a bunch of people pass me. I dropped back to 7th or 8th woman. And I used that time period to rest my legs, to let them recover, to go a lot slower than I would have. And I held myself back until I felt completely fresh. And then that's when I started to chip back away at my original position. But yes, I did fully get caught up in the frenzy. And I'm so impressed by those who didn't, because it's hard. The race is so fast and there's so much excitement. And when there's so many people who also get caught up in the frenzy, you think you're running normal pace, but you don't realize it's just everybody's making the same mistake.
Where did you take over Ina, who was in third at the time? Where was that, with about 10 miles left?
Yes, yeah, almost exactly. So that was about mile 52 as I came into the 51-mile aid station, and my crew told me that the 3 top women had all left about 5 minutes ago, and they had all left together. That's also when they told me that Heather Jackson had already had a golden ticket. So that all I had to do was pass one woman in order to gain that spot, which was so exciting to hear. And I was like, oh boy, we got something good coming. And yeah, as I then rounded the next couple miles, I saw Ida walking up ahead. I think she was having a tough day up there, tough day with the heat. And so I passed her at about mile 52.
Right.
Wow.
Well, it's pretty epic that in a couple short years, you've clinched your goal of getting a Western States ticket, and you've got, once you do Western, the world's your oyster. You can pick so many different races because you're not going to spend the time trying to get into Western like this guy did.
I know.
Years.
It only took me 8 years.
So I'm so envious. If I could turn back the clock, I would do things so much differently. But I'm happy for you that you've gotten that ticket at this age, and everything else is going to be gravy.
Thank you. I'm very excited about it.
Now, Western States is going to be your first 100-miler. That is a whole new world. What's the strategy in this now?
Oh man, just survive. Yeah, no, that's another thing that really sunk in the next day. I think I was so fixated on getting the golden ticket and getting into Western, I didn't really think about, what happens when, Meghan, you actually do have to run Western. So I'm like, oh my goodness. And I kind of thought about this towards the end of the race too, that it was getting pretty hot at the end and I was getting pretty dehydrated. And then I was like, oh, if you do get this ticket, Meghan, you're going to have to run 40 more miles and it's going to be 100 degrees as opposed to 70 degrees. So I haven't really started thinking about strategy yet. I've been giving myself some time to just take a total break from running, both mentally and physically. And, but I think from here on, it's going to be just putting in the miles, putting in the work, continuing on heat training and starting to think about heat mitigation strategies. Definitely want to start thinking about who would be best to pace me for it. But I think from what I've heard from folks, a really big part of Western, and I'm sure you can attest to this too, is just heat mitigation. So that's something that I really want to practice and nail down and feel comfortable with, because I want to feel as comfortable as possible in the day to be able to perform great. I don't want to slip into that kind of scary zone of when your hands start shaking from dehydration. But I'm so excited for the course. I think it is something that I could excel in if I execute correctly, as it is runnable. It is mostly downhill except for some pretty tough sections. But I think I have a lot of studying to do and a lot of folks to talk to for advice before I fully map out the strategy. I'm just so excited to be a part of such a historic event, such a community oriented event, and also one that is full of all these women who I've looked up to for a couple of years now. And I just can't believe that my name is on a list next to theirs. And yeah, I'm just so excited to soak it all in and just, like you said, have as much fun as possible.
And after Western, I know this is going to be further on, but now are you thinking of any other races like UTMB or Hard Rock or anything in Canada?
Yeah, I have a couple. I really would love to do Leadville one year. I love the history around that race. I love the community aspect of that race. And I think it would be something that would play to my strengths for sure. So that one's definitely on the list. I would absolutely love to do UTMB. It's definitely on the list. I don't know that I'm ready for it yet. I don't think that I have the climbing legs in me quite yet to perform well. I think if I want to go all the way out to France and do it right, I want to do it to the best of my capabilities. I want to be able to perform and compete well. So it's definitely on the list, but I think I have some work to do before I get there. And then besides that, I want to do as many competitive fun races as possible. I've never repeated a race. So because there's just so many good ones to do that allow you to see different parts of the country, parts of the world. I've never competed internationally. So that would be amazing too. And then just aside from running, I definitely love adventure runs and just kind of picking a route with friends, whether it be a 1-day route or a multi-day route. So I have a couple of those in my head that I definitely want to put some time aside for.
Well, hopefully you come to Canada and do something up here. We'd love to have you.
I would love to. It looks absolutely beautiful up there. Do you have any races you recommend up in Canada?
I was thinking the Canadian Death Race, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, Canadian Death Race.
That does sound enticing.
Yep.
125K.
Okay.
Grand Cache, Alberta, which is north of Edmonton. And
and it's called the Canadian Death Race, but I did it. It was my first, and I survived. I'm still here.
Yeah. All right. We have one survivor. Those are good stats.
That would be a good one for you. Yeah, you're right.
I think so.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I will definitely look into it.
Yeah, for sure. And all the maple syrup you can possibly wish for.
Oh my goodness, don't tempt me. I'm gonna get a headache.
Well, this has been awesome, Meg. We really appreciate you taking the time out today. And again, congratulations. And we can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was so great meeting you, Jody and Norman. Really great getting to know you better. And yeah, thank you for watching on Saturday. Yeah. And thank you so much again for having me on.
Okay. All the best, Meg.
Bye, Jody. Bye, Norman.
Right.
And that was Meghan Morgan.
What a smart cookie.
Smart cookie.
For 25 and only been doing this for 2 years?
Great strategist.
Oh my gosh.
She actually backed off and said, you know what? Go ahead. I'll get you later. Wow.
So smart.
Yeah, and she was obviously, we saw the video at the end of Black Canyon. She was just so elated to get a ticket, and
Yeah.
it's so funny, these Western States golden tickets, they're bigger than they are.
Yeah, and I hope that, there's so much pressure on these elites once they show up to the big show to put on an epic day. And you know what? Just do what you can do and enjoy it. Yeah, it'd be great to win Western, but...
Or I guess they're all just trying to get the top 10 so they could just keep going back over and over again. That's their plan.
Yes,
but,
exactly.
End of the day, things happen and...
Just
do
your best.
Experience, yeah.
Do your best.
Of course.
It's the same as Boston, like I said. Everyone puts so much pressure on themselves to have a good performance at Boston.
But Boston is when you celebrate.
Yeah.
You
Boston's not a PB course.
No, you celebrate Boston. You're getting there, all the hard work getting there. Yeah.
So enjoy all the sections of Boston, all the...
Enjoy each canyon at the Western
Yes.
States.
Come on now. Take it all in.
All 5 of them, I think.
Because you never know if you will be back again. So you got to enjoy... You got to enjoy it.
Okay, you got it.
Because you're not going back. Sorry.
Okay, and that's it for today.
Maybe I will, though.
Oh! All right.
Kidding. Thanks for listening.
Until next time. Cheers. Bye.